All right. We are live. A to Z Sports, a big orange podcast, wherever you listen throughout the world. We thank you so much for listening to us. We talk everything Vols every week here on the Big Orange Podcast. If you want to listen to that on the regular, go over to the A to Z Sports Podcast Network feed on Apple or Spotify. When you get there, rate, review, but you got to subscribe. If you do subscribe, you won't miss our shows when we drop them on Mondays. And speaking of Mondays, it is one right now at 5 p.m. Eastern time. That means we're live on YouTube. We're 5:18 Eastern time. We're a little behind today. But live on YouTube. But if you go over to the YouTube channel, which is A to Z Sports Tennessee Volunteers, you can subscribe and hit that notification bell next to the subscription button, and you'll be notified when we go live. So you won't miss it. You can drop in, be a part of the show, hang out with us. It's always a great time. And at A to Z, or at Charlie_Burris, at Zach TNT, at A to Z Sports, Facebook.com/A to Z Sports Nashville, A to Z Sports.com for everything that Zach writes on the internet. I didn't say our names. Charlie Burris and Zach Reagan are.
Yeah, they're on the screen. That's okay.
Yeah, exactly. People, no, but who listens to podcasts anymore? It's all about YouTube, baby. No, sorry to our great podcast listeners. I see you. I see our numbers. Okay, Zach. What a week. We're gonna talk about obviously the football game from over the weekend, but also the entire Tony Vitello. What do you even call it? Saga wrapped up, and we got a new baseball coach all in about 7 days. And I mean, it's been a complete whirlwind. We're going to talk about all, and there was a basketball exhibition game, which we'll talk about for at least a short amount of time. Man, crazy week. What's up, man?
Yeah, I'm fairly certain, and I'm not positive because I haven't been around the whole time that Tennessee's been around, obviously, but I'm fairly certain this is the first time that football's ever been overshadowed in the middle of October by baseball. I mean, at one point last week, middle of the week, what was it, Wednesday, I guess, when Vitello accepted the job, Monday, Tuesday, into Wednesday, really even into Thursday, after the news broke, it's like people forgot that Tennessee lost to Alabama and that they had a game against Kentucky coming up. So I don't know, maybe Josh Heupel was happy to have that distraction that everybody kind of forgot about that loss to Alabama last weekend because of Tony Vitello surprisingly, going to MLB. It's we say it all the time, there's never a dull moment at Tennessee.
It was the only thing that I could think about after that announcement got made. It was like my dog died. Like, it was just brutal. We obviously went live last week on Tuesday. He left on Wednesday officially, and we missed it. And we said we were not going to do a follow-up if he left, and made that decision because it just, what's the point? And so, I mean, to not spend too much time on that, the guy was just special in a completely different way from almost any coach that Tennessee, especially men's sports, obviously. I mean, Pat Summitt's probably the closest thing you've had at Tennessee. But she wasn't like candid and kind of this cult of personality that he was. Well, that's not entirely true. She was in her own way. It was just completely different. Like, she had all of those elements, plus, was kind of almost one of the inventors of women's college basketball in some sense. But in this different way, like, this guy was just so unique and amazing and just obviously the best dude in the sport. And you had him, and you could hang him over everybody else and just go, oh, well, isn't that nice for you? We have Tony Vitello. Shut up. Like, it was just so great. And on top of the winning, like I said, his personality, like his farewell speech that he did with the select media members, he just did a little pool with some media guys. Like, it was just so, I mean, it made me tear up while I was reading it. It's been an emotional week, guys. It made me tear up while I was reading it. Like, I just went, I'm going to miss this guy so much. I will miss this guy more than I would miss certain relatives. Like, it was just a complete parasocial relationship with Tony Vitello. I've met him a couple of times. He doesn't know that, but I have. I mean, and it just ripped my heart out, and yet has a good ending that we're going to talk about in a second. But I don't know if you have any thoughts on Vitello actually leaving, Zach.
Yeah, I mean, just to run through this real quick, because I know we broke down a lot of it last week. I think this whole thing from beginning to end. I mean, it was such a roller coaster, right? I mean, from the time the report came out, it really wasn't even a report. It just kind of mentioned that he might be a candidate. There in late September when the Giants made a move with their manager. From then when we didn't think it would be realistic at all to the Ken Rosenthal report that dropped in the hours before the Alabama game, and it's, oh no, he might be leaving, he might be staying. Does he get along with Danny White? Does he not get along with Danny White? Could they have kept him? This whole thing had so many layers, and I think ultimately it worked out as well as it could have. Obviously, the best case scenario would have been Vitello staying, but the situation is what it is. A chance to manage an MLB, whether it was the right or wrong decision. I think for Vitello, it will always be the right decision, no matter how this plays out. Just because you can't pass up that opportunity if you're him, I get it. As far as the Danny White stuff, I don't know really where I totally stand on all that because we don't have all the information. But my best guess from everything that we've kind of heard and put together is that these two guys they just didn't connect deeply on a personal level. Like they just weren't the kind of guys that would be hanging out with each other if they weren't, working for the same university, right? If Danny White wasn't Tony Vitello's boss. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, there's people like that all the time, right? Like everybody has relationships like that where you just don't connect quite as well. It's kind of like an arrangement by marriage sort of situation. So I don't think it was Vitello was looking for a way out, anything like that. I just don't think he has the relationship with Danny White that Josh Heupel has. If this was a situation where an NFL team was coming after Josh Heupel, I think it might play out a little differently because he's so close with Danny White, and those relationships with the athletic directors are so important. They get overlooked at times. Sometimes people kind of gloss over that, but I think that's key in making any athletic department work or any athletics team work is having that continuity. Alignment is the buzzword they like to use. I really do think that's important, and that just wasn't there. So I don't think that was something that was going to draw Vitello back. I don't think it was I don't think the disharmony was there quite like it's been made out like it was. I just think that they just weren't close, and that's fine. That's okay. I mean, that happens in this industry.
I have a lot to say about that particular topic. I'm not going to say it all here because it's been fleshed out. I fleshed it out some on Twitter and different places. What broke me over that entire thing was hearing Chris Lowe, hearing Chris Burke. I mean, guys who know Vitello, especially Chris Burke, say, I mean, they said verbatim, I'm not making this up. There's video of it that you can go find. It was for Burke, it was on D1 Baseball, the D1 Baseball podcast. And he said, this didn't have to happen. And he was one of the only people that I heard say, yes, this opportunity is awesome for Vitello, but it was more than that. Like it was much more, it ran deeper because an MLB job is cool, but it doesn't make you leave the town where everybody kisses the ground that you walk on. They're building you an entire new stadium. You're the highest paid college coach. We're now the second highest paid, the Jay Johnson. All of these things. An MLB job doesn't make you just up and go, all right, I'm out of here. It has to run deeper than that. And they both, Chris Lowe and Chris Burke, both said it didn't have to be like this. It didn't have to go like that. And as you said, we don't know the details. But Danny White coming out in his press conference. I mean, the press conference happened after we had our show last week. But our texts with each other, his press conference. First of all, he's not a good public speaker. He says every other word. Just if he has to go off the cuff at all, it's pretty brutal. And that was true today during Josh Elander's introduction. That where I'm going to give Danny White credit, we're going to get there. But his press conference about Vitello leaving, that was a tough watch. We were comparing it to the old Bev Davenport press conference, and
it felt combative at times.
It did. He was extremely defensive, just defensive and stumbling over his words and calling out, saying, who reported this stuff about the taking money away from the Lady Vols and stuff. I'm like, why'd you even bring that up? Like that was an unverified rumor.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see it being true, but we didn't bring it up on this show for that reason. An unverified rumor from local media personalities, and you're bringing it up in this press conference about Tony Vitello. Like, what are you doing? it was just a lot of that that was just perplexing. And I said between that press conference and how he's handled this, the rumors that came out, and then what really rubbed me the wrong way, he mentioned the price of the stadium in his farewell statement about Tony Vitello. Danny, just say that you love money more than people. It's okay. We get it. We understand. Everybody reminded me, everybody that disagreed with me was like, when I tweeted about all this stuff, said, "Oh, well, caring about money is Danny's job." As that, oh, okay, fine. But also, Danny's job is keeping your best coach that's on campus happy, and he didn't do that. He didn't do that. Like he didn't. And I don't know all the details, but he didn't. And Chris Berg tells me so. So that was, that was a tough pill to swallow. And if it really is true that it didn't have to happen this way, that's just going to be one of the great what ifs of Tennessee sports ever. I mean, you're roster wise, and hopefully Josh Elander can accomplish this, but roster wise, recruit wise, Tennessee is set up to win. What do you think? 2 more national championships in the next 7 years, maybe more. I think it's something like that. Like you are set up for major future success. And the best coach in the entire sport just walked out the door. Like, just brutal. So brutal.
And from here though, like you gotta, at this point it's all about looking forward because like what's done is done, right? And I think you gotta hope that Danny White. I think you gotta hope that the concerns about Danny White are, I think this week I feel better about him. I'll just put it that way, right? I feel better about Danny White after he hired Josh Elander to replace Tony Vitello very quickly. It was the obvious choice. And Elander hasn't been obviously as front facing in the program as Tony Vitello, but when I spent some time over the weekend, or really Friday before the announcement was made Saturday, just trying to dive into who Josh Elander is as a person, because we really don't know that much about him. Even Danny White admitted he doesn't know that much about him, and that's part of his policy. That was kind of odd in that press conference, but that's beside the point. Just diving into who Josh Elander is, you really saw that he's a key part of the reason this culture at Tennessee works. It wasn't just Tony Vitello's big personality and his philosophies. I mean, he's the one that started this, but none of that happens without a really good staff around him. And Josh Elander was key in that. Just hearing like him talk about it, I tweeted the clip out talking about the no bad teammates policy and how the culture is so, established at Tennessee at this point that you don't really have problems with that, because the guys that come to Tennessee that aren't good teammates, it just doesn't work out. And you've kind of seen that, with some guys that have left the program here and there over time, Chase Burns, maybe, whoever you want to point to, that it really is this culture that kind of, it's not, I don't want to say it's on autopilot, but it really does take care of itself at this point. Why would you want to erase that? Because if you don't hire Josh Elander, you're starting all over, and who knows if the new coach's culture would work. Like I know the Coastal Carolina coach was mentioned and was going to be interviewed, and I tweeted, or I texted you, I was like, hey, this guy might not be bad if it's not Elander, and you pointed out like, yeah, he was what Josh Elander is now. That's where he was a year ago. He was the coach in waiting at Coastal and had never been a head coach. So that kind of made me think like, yeah, why would you go take another program's version of Josh Elander when you have that guy right here? So the fact that Danny White got there on his own, he was very clear about that. I mean, that's one thing through this is he has some ego. He believes in himself when it comes time to hire a coach, and he does have a good track record. Now, he's only hired one baseball coach ever, and that was at UCF, and that guy was kind of lackluster and was fired a couple of years ago. But no, I say it all the time, nobody bats 1,000 in this industry. But the fact that he got there on his own to decide that, hey, Elander is the right guy for this job, I think that was the best way this thing could play out, and it should make everybody feel a little better about Danny White. The guy's not perfect. We're not going to agree with every decision he makes. We're not going to like it every time he raises the prices of something, because that's going to continue to happen. It's happening all over the sport. But the fact that he got there with Elander and made the right call there and saw it the way that we saw it and the way that former players see it, the way that current players see it is really encouraging, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. He won some points back for sure over the weekend, but I'm also just deeply at odds with where, and I thought him saying this at the podium was crazy too, in the post Vitello press conference, he said that he doesn't make it a I forget it was something like this. He doesn't make it a point to be chummy with assistant coaches. His lieutenants talk to assistant coaches. I went, Danny, even if that's true, buddy, don't say that out loud. Like, I get it. That's probably the case corporate structure wise. That's something that you find. And it's a very hierarchy based. I delegate to this person, they delegate to that person, and then we're all doing our most efficient job. And a lot of people, again, when I tweeted about this, a lot of people said, "Oh, that's common corporate corporate way of doing things." This isn't a corporate office job. This is not a corporate office job. This is something completely unique. And Tony is not a corporate office guy. And that's not the way that you're going to keep him happy and keep him someplace, is by being like, I'll have my lieutenant go and speak with him. I don't need to have a relationship with the best coach on campus. It doesn't matter. Like Tony is emotional and off the cuff. And, he does and apologizes later. He doesn't fit in that box, which is why him and Danny didn't get along.
Yeah.
And that just, like, at a certain point, you got to go, I have the best dude in this entire sport. Let me go down and have a conversation with him a few times a year, like that. Like I said, I'm deeply at odds with that. And I've never, we had these conversations in text. I mean, just in jobs that I've had, people that are like that, where they're like, I'm above you, don't speak to me. That's the most unpleasant environment to work in. It's just terrible. But I do see Trammell in the comments. He says, where was that comment? He said, we need money to win, and baseball loses money. I don't know why people are tripping. This is about more than money. Some stuff that's extremely valuable is more than money. It was what this guy represented. It was the cult of personality. It was he basically stood for what has been this golden age renaissance of Tennessee sports. Was Tony Vitello, where you just went, we were in the absolute dumper. We won a national championship. These are the golden years. It wasn't, we know baseball loses money. Danny White knows baseball loses money, but it also, Tony Vitello's on ESPN talking about MLB baseball at the MLB draft. He goes bigger than that. He's more than that. Tony was bigger. We've said a lot, certain single person isn't bigger than the program. Tony Vitello was bigger than the program. He was. He's not bigger than Tennessee as like a brand or as the school, but he was bigger than Tennessee baseball and meant more. And to not nurture that relationship, to me, is crazy. But, and then Trammell asked, do I want Danny White gone? No. I mean, he's done a fine job. He has a job to do. Josh Heupel, good hire. Kim Caldwell seems like it's going to be a good hire. We'll really see this season. He's and he's making money for your university. That's great. Some things are about more than money. This is a relationship business. It's not just a corporate job. But I don't want to go too long on this. I don't have a ton to say about it.
I would just close it by saying, Danny White's done some good things for Tennessee, beyond just hiring coaches and, renovations. For example, his policy, which I personally appreciate, I think a lot of fans do, wanting to do away with neutral site football games, right? Like wanting to do home and home games. Like he has good ideas, and he does try to lean into what the fans want from time to time. Like I've said plenty, everybody's got flaws. Nobody's perfect. There's a lot of fans in college football and college sports that aren't happy with their athletic directors. I mean, Scott Woodward at LSU's feeling some heat. He's been at two major universities now, Texas A&M and LSU, and the biggest thing he's accomplished in college football is securing massive buyouts now for two coaches, in Jimbo Fisher and Brian Kelly. And you look at Florida and kind of some of their troubles with athletics in recent years. It's just, I don't think anybody's ever fully happy with their athletic director, and that's because there's just so much volatility in college sports at this point. It's tough to keep everybody happy. Not everybody's going to do it the way that we think they should do it, and Danny White's done some great things. We wish he would have handled some things with Tony Vitello a little differently. But for now, there's still great stability in this athletics department, and I think that'll continue, and hopefully it continues under Josh Elander with the baseball program. I'm anxious to see what this kind of team looks like when it takes the field next spring, next February, and the regular season starts, and kind of if that personality is still there. I think it will be, because I think that's Elander's MO as well, is kind of letting players be themselves. I just don't think we'll see we won't have the candid press conferences and the just brutal honesty that you get from Tony Vitello and some of the incredible one-liners and pop culture references that he would drop on the regular. And we'll definitely miss that. But good news is they those guys talk twice a day to the media and MLB before and after games, so we'll still get plenty of Tony Vitello gold. It'll just be from out west.
The fact that he started his farewell speech with, "I think you guys heard that I got a job babysitting Drew Gilbert."
Classic.
Like, that just is it's so good. I am going to miss that guy so much. He was just incredible. But now, Josh Elander hired, whether think what you want. We're never going to know for sure whether Danny got bullied into it or whether it was truly Danny's choice. I'm going to say it was Danny's choice, because I hope it was. I hope he heard the outcry from everybody, every former player, every current player, Chris Burke, all of these, every media personality was saying it too. All the national guys were just like, well, it seems like the best hire is right there already, on the team,
I hope that he sat in the room with him and was like, I have to hire this guy. That's what I really hope. I mean, if that's the best case scenario. I'm
not going to spend too much time on it, because we still don't know a ton about Josh Elander. We've only heard in these few things. He hasn't, he's just always been kind of that silent backbone of the team. And just, we've known he's really good, but not known a lot about him. And what he showed just in the press conference today and in his introduction video with Danny White, specifically both times, again, I genuinely don't mean this to dog on Danny White, truly, because not everybody's a great public speaker. I think you're going to be an AD, you should probably work on it. But hearing Danny White in the introduction video and then today stumble and say 10 million times, and then hear Josh Elander get up immediately right after him, that dude, Elander, is smooth and really well-spoken and really has his ducks in a row. I mean, he seriously, I was impressed. Truly, I didn't know what we were going to get as far as that goes. And I went, wow, this guy's smooth as butter. Like, he really has, like, he's a far better speaker than Vitello was. Like, way better. And it's not as exciting, it's not as fun, and it's not as candid. But I mean, a really good speaker. I 100% see why his teams like him. Behind closed doors, what you hear about him is just brutally hard worker, and will do anything and everything for all of the dudes in that room. And that's amazing. I think it's the right hire without a doubt. And credit to Danny White. I think this will be the right move. And if it's not, it's as far as Danny White's concerned, it's a complete, just like, it matters. Almost everybody else made this decision for you. And so, hey, I love this. I like this guy a lot already. I think it's awesome. And it's just, hey, we'll see in February. We'll see exactly how it goes, but keep that roster together. Keep your recruiting class together. The fact that he mentioned he spent the last few days calling every single recruit that they have committed to make sure they're where they need to be, that was encouraging. It was just good. I like him a lot. That's kind of all I really have to say about it. Thank you to Danny for just making the decision, whether you got bullied into it or not. I don't care. At least you did it. And hey, I'm excited. It's a good hire.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes in February. I mean, we got a few months now. We can kind of simmer on it, and it's a long way till baseball season now.
Yeah, we got Link Jarrett paid. Link Jarrett at Florida State got a payday because of this. Got the guy at Coastal Carolina paid.
Yeah, he got it paid before he even interviewed. That was a weird. That was a weird.
Which means
deal.
Means he would have left if he was offered the job, but
probably.
Yeah, I think it was Kendall Ross or somebody say something along the lines of, it's impressive that Coastal Carolina got him to stay. And I was like, nah. I'm pretty sure if he would have been offered the Tennessee job, he would be Tennessee's head coach today. But
who else would be Tennessee's head coach if they'd been offered the job?
Dude. Oh, great. The legend, the coaching legend who's never coached a day in his life, Kurt Schilling.
I thought the funniest tweet, I believe it was Martin Agee that tweeted, how must it feel to not get a job that nobody at the school, none of the fans, none of the ex players, nobody wanted you to have this job, and yet, yet you wanted it.
He lives in Tennessee, though. Don't forget that. That very important factor.
It's kind of like when Jeff Fisher threw his name in, I think, that last time Tennessee needed a football coach.
So silly. All right, we are going to talk about the football game. We spent almost 30 minutes on baseball. Obviously, Tennessee going dark mode against Oklahoma. So we'll knock out super quickly because I think this is it's almost just going to be in passing. That basketball game last night, I'm not going to on it. Everyone can have strong feelings about it if they want to. Oh, Nate Mint, he was underwhelming. Kid finished with a double-double in this game.
Yeah, first game ever.
It's clear that Barnes trusts him enough to just feed him basketball. And first game ever as a true freshman, which is insane and tells me that he's going to be really good.
Yeah. Against Duke, nonetheless, not against, Loyola, Maryland or something, whatever. It's
right.
Duke, even if it is
like give him some bye games to get comfortable. Carlos Boozer's kid is an absolute freak and made that known. And that was a factor in all of that. I think John Shire tried harder in that game than Rick did, because specifically my main takeaway from it is you have to find a two guard who can make shots. That's absolutely imperative. Jacoby Gillespie is that's another easy takeaway for me. This kid's just gonna be hot or cold. He's gonna have some games where he scores 30 points for you. He's gonna have some games where he scores 10 and misses like 20 shots. And that's gonna be that. But you have to find a two guard that can score, because your front court, this is the best front court Rick Barnes ever had. Like, this front court's monstrous. It's the tallest team he's ever had between Amit, Estrella, Cade, Para, and then Jalen Carey. Like, that's crazy lineup in your front court. They're gonna be good and figure out the chemistry and all that together, but you got to find a two guard, whether it's Berg or Amari Abram, whoever. I don't care, but figure that out in this early part of the season. And I'll just kind of leave it there. I'm not taking much away from that. It was a glorified practice, a very fun glorified practice, and I really enjoyed it. But don't get too much in your feelings. Nate Mint will settle in. Eric said he went 5 for 19. That's true, but Duke's a really, really tough team. Give him a month, and let's see where we're at. If you have any thoughts, Zach, we can move on to football.
No, I mean, I just liked what you said there with the front court. I mean, that's the thing we talked about that Rick Barnes has kind of missed at times to make some of these deep tournament runs is matching up against some of these really good front courts. So maybe this is the year. It's super early, though. We'll see.
If they can figure out that inside-out action, because it's not a minute. I don't want to get too much into the talk, but he genuinely was running into his teammates as far as making plays. They weren't clearing out. And that's because Duke didn't have to clear out, because they knew Tennessee doesn't really have that shot-making ability yet. At least it's not on film, and they didn't show it last night. I don't think that Bishop Boswell is going to play significant minutes going forward. Maybe he does. I think it's going to be one of those other two guys, though. And they've got to find out who it is, smooth it out, and they'll be all right. I think I'll leave it at this. It has the potential to be Barnes' best team ever, period. To me, it's the deepest, and they got it all if they can put the pieces together. I'd put it like that. So now,
start first game a week from tomorrow, November 3rd.
From today, I think.
Today.
Yep, against Mercer, I want to say. I think they brought that up. Oh, and I just turned off the TV sound and listened to Mike Keith, which is I cannot suggest that more. Absolutely do that. Chris Lofton is
was Lofton on there with him?
Yeah, it was Lofton and John Wilkerson. And they were, Wilkerson's a legend. And then, Lofton is good. He's kind of like Nate Mint. He's going to have to grow into it, become more confident. But, yeah.
He'll get reps. He'll get better.
Yeah, and Mike Keith is just the best. I still almost brings me to tears thinking about the fact that we got that guy on the mic now. Anywho, all right. See, Oklahoma. We can mention briefly about the Kentucky game. Offense, this Cliff Notes. Offense, incredible. Defense, vomit. If you want to hear my full thoughts, post game show that I did with former Vols quarterback Jonathan Crompton right here on the 80 Sports Tennessee Volunteers YouTube channel. Go watch that. But it was probably Joey's best game. Very encouraging. It was probably the defense's worst game. I mean, nearly like there were moments they just looked lost out there completely. You're missing Arian Carter at linebacker, and it's just brutal. I mean, you let a Kentucky offense that has done nothing, like crazily nothing all season long, and they scored over 30 points on you. Seriously, what is going on? I've been on fire team bank since 2022. Don't get me started there. We don't have to talk about that at all. But I mean, for real, what the heck? That's just really bad. And you had, like Kyle brings up, Boot Carter with his effort that was brutal. And it was a lot. And thank goodness you got an offense that can score 50 points. I don't know if you want to break it down too much, Zach.
Yeah, I think, offensively, Kentucky came out and played some more man coverage than I think anyone expected, more than Tennessee expected. Mike Matthews said he's on the Food City locker room, the Vault West, some of those guys do. He said that they were expecting more zone coverage from Kentucky, so they were surprised at all the man coverage, and obviously that was a terrible idea by Kentucky. You see why these guys are playing these high safety looks where you take away the deep shots and play more zone coverage against Tennessee, because you can really you can shut down like a Brazel maybe and then make another guy beat you. And you play man coverage like that across the board. I mean, you saw Matthews, Brazel, and Braylon Staley all went over 100 yards. So that was a nice surprise, but I wouldn't get too used to that from the offense. They're still going to have big plays, but I think you're going to see fewer teams take that approach against Tennessee. I'm not sure why Kentucky went that way, but they did. The defense, man, I'm all over the place with this defense, because there are just moments where, like you said, it's so bad with the tackling assignment. They don't play assignment sound at times. They seem confused, especially when they're in zone coverage. Like the communication still at times is lacking. I know with Arian Carter out, that made a big impact on it. Obviously, having your two cornerbacks out with Jermon McCoy and Ricky Gibson is killer. You're having to play Ty Redmond, who, to me, the kid's talented. He does well at times in coverage. He needs to tackle better, but he looks like he's thinking too much out there at times. And I'm worried if he's losing some confidence, just because that he has been picked on so much, and it's like he's a step behind at times. And I think that's just a product of being a young player, trying to understand what you're trying to do. He knows that everybody's coming right at him, so he's trying to play perfect, and that never works out for anybody, because you're going to make mistakes, especially when you play corner. You're going to get beat. I don't care how good you are, you're going to get beat eventually. So I do worry about his confidence a little bit. And now you might not have Colton Hood against Oklahoma. We don't know yet, because he was injured against Kentucky. Josh Heupel was a little coy about his status for this weekend, and that never bodes well, as we know with Heupel. When he talks about guys, check the injury report, it usually means they're not going to play. So you could be really thin at corner against Oklahoma. But the secondary issues combined with the poor tackling, I think, has made this defense look worse than it is, because there's these huge play moments, right? Like they take the ball away, they get after the quarterback, they score touchdowns consistently on defense. Like they've put the offense in position to win games. They put the offense in position to win the Mississippi State game. They put the offense in position to win the Georgia game with the takeaway. Even Alabama, they gave you a chance, and the offense did nothing with the turnover. But then on the flip side, sometimes the offense has to score points because the defense has given up explosive plays against Kentucky. I mean, I think that was the most concerning thing about the offensive outburst from Kentucky, was the fact that they just haven't done it. I mean, they hadn't scored more than 14 points in 3 straight SEC games, and then you give up 30-something to them, and that was an 8-minute drive and a couple of explosive plays in the first half to give up 21. I know Josh Heupel kind of downplayed it, like, it was just 2 plays and 1 long drive. And, Kentucky could have said the same thing about Tennessee. They just gave up a few explosive plays, and other than that, it wasn't that bad. I don't know. This defense, there are problems, and I understand. There's people in the comments talking about it's not as bad as it looks. There's other people that feel differently. It's hard to evaluate this defense. It really is because they do a lot of good things. They do a lot of really good things, and they do a lot of things that's just like, what do you practice tackling? How's the middle of the field this open? How do you give up so many third and longs in these situations? Why are you dropping everybody into coverage on 3rd and 2 and not protecting, the first down marker? A lot of stuff like that that's hard to understand. It seems like at this point, though, this is just who these guys are.
Yeah, you're pretty much set with it at this point, unless Javon McCoy can come back, and I don't think that's happening this week. Again, getting close to the point where it might be time
if
to
he does,
wrap it up for him.
I think the best case scenario for Javon McCoy is come back in the New Mexico State game, play the last 3 games of the regular season. We'll see if that happens next week after the Oklahoma game. You got to buy there. That'll be key. But this is the normal timeline for him. I never expected him back before November or December anyway. I thought all these reports about him coming back in October were never fair to him to begin with. I mean, he's still in the standard recovery time at this point. I mean, you look at, I mentioned it before, Trayvon Diggs tore his ACL. He was out 360 days or whatever it was from the time he tore it to his first game back. So this is pretty much the normal timeline for this injury.
Yeah, I hope that you can get at least that. Just maybe 3 games out of him. He's at his best in whatever postseason you have, hopefully the playoff. And that would be awesome. But I do agree with you that it's not so black and white with the defense where they absolutely suck. Because honestly, the perfect dichotomy is this, or juxtaposition, is Idris Farouk, pick 6. Hey, very next drive, just takes a horrific angle and a guy rips past him for a 70-yard touchdown. Like, that's the defense. That's it. in a nutshell, right there is just that. Those 2 things are what you get out of these guys. And it's tough to stomach, but Kentucky stinks, and you roll past them, and that's great. Offense was awesome. You had every wide receiver was cooking. You didn't even have to run the ball. Like, I would look at that number initially and go, "Oh, that's kind of concerning that they didn't really run the ball." But then you look at the receiving numbers and you're like, "Well, why would you?"
They still finished with over 100 yards rushing at the end of the
day. They did,
which is low for Tennessee, but
good.
Still.
Yeah, a little bit of a comeback game for Star Thomas after a few weeks where he's looked and so you take the good with the bad all over the field for Tennessee here. And you look at Oklahoma coming off a loss to Ole Miss, now a loss where they had the lead going into the 4th quarter against Ole Miss, but they coughed up the most points that they've given up all season long to Ole Miss. And here's your difference between Tennessee and Ole Miss. Defensively, Oklahoma, number 1 in total defense in the SEC, number 1 in scoring defense in the SEC. Tennessee, 13th in total defense in the SEC, and 13th in scoring defense also. But offensively, I didn't even look at this. Let's see exactly what obviously, looking at this binary is a little reductive. But total offense, Tennessee obviously number 1, 510 yards a game for Tennessee. Scoring offense, Tennessee number 1, Oklahoma number 11. And then total offense, Tennessee was number 1, Oklahoma is number 10. So middling offense for Oklahoma. And then you add in this element. John Mateer can't push the football downfield right now. And maybe he has a miracle extra recovery this week. And he gets what was it that Alabama used to use on the spray, the deer antler spray? Used to use deer antler spray on the players, and maybe he'll get that deer antler spray on the wrist, and he'll be able to throw downfield. But he wasn't seeing the field. He wasn't able to get anything beyond. I think he was over on passes beyond 20 yards
And many of those passes were just YOLO passes where he had guys
Yeah.
open underneath, and he's just like, "No, I'm throwing it deep." I mean, one of them was like a fourth down near the end of the game. I mean, he had a guy open for the first down. He's like, "No, I'm going for it all right here." So some of that's decision making beyond just the
Yes.
hands.
Yeah. I mean, it also like he just wasn't seeing the field correctly. Maybe it's him just being phased with a gimpy hand. I don't know. But he's not 100%. I don't think he's going to be 100% in this game, and I'm not gonna hope that he's injured. And I just think he's going to be. And so there's that factor. Then on top of that, Oklahoma brought in pretty close to the best set of running backs we thought preseason, maybe in the SEC. And they just it hasn't translated. Whatever it is, where do they stack up rushing offense wise? Yeah, number 12 in the SEC in rushing offense. Tennessee at 6th in that stat. And just unimpressive. They brought in Jaden Ott in the offseason, got nothing out of that guy really. And just unimpressed is the word that I would use in terms of their running game. They have some good receivers. They have the ability to score some, but it does feel like if Tennessee can manage, what do you think, 30 points in this one, you're probably thinking you might even win by like a full touchdown at that point. Because they 26 against Ole Miss. They put up 26 against Ole Miss, and I mean, your defense is probably not as good as Ole Miss's, but it's also in Neyland Stadium. Hope that helps. Yeah, I think that's rattle Oklahoma offense to a certain extent. It's really good matchup. And I think my primary thought is, goodness, this game's in Neyland Stadium. To me, I'm feeling lost here if it's not. But the fact that it is, I'm probably feeling win.
Yeah, I definitely feel more confident about this game with it being at Neyland. That's just, I mean, that's life in the SEC. You feel better about any game at home. But I agree. I think your defense will be able to affect them, just like we've had this conversation. I think they'll make some big plays. Who knows what they give up? I'm sure they'll give up some frustrating, third down conversions or something. But I think Mateer, with the way he's been playing, I think they're ripe for some turnovers, defensive touchdown, something like that. No, the Oklahoma's offense has just been so up and down under Brent Venable, a lot of down, really. And it's like he keeps searching. He keeps searching for the answer. I mean, he's on his third OC, which, I mean, you lose Jeff Lebby to a head coaching job, so you can't blame Brent Venables for that. But then Seth Littrell last year doesn't work out. I think Seth Littrell's helped Tennessee's offense this season with some of the stuff he's helped bring to the table, like the pistol look, things like that. You move on to Ben Arbuckle, who's supposed to be, the great hope here that brought the quarterback with him from Washington State, and it's been okay. You've had an injury, but you scored 6 points against Texas. You weren't able to win the shootout with Ole Miss because you weren't able to score enough. So at some point, you wonder: is it Venables? Is he trying to micromanage too much, kind of like Jeremy Pruitt did when he was at Tennessee? Is it players? What is it? I don't know, but it's a good matchup as far as I think Tennessee's defense will be able to create some big plays here, create some havoc. If you can get Mateer to panic and throw a pick six or something, I mean, that right there can change the momentum in the game, and especially being at home, and maybe you go down, put it away after that.
I am concerned even more in terms of Tennessee's defense against Oklahoma's offense. Colton Hood, his injury status. Josh Heupel asked about Colton Hood being banged up, and he's classic Josh Heupel response: look out for the injury report on Wednesday. Oh, we will. I mean, we will be looking, because if Colton Hood doesn't play, whoo, you are up a creek without a paddle, boy. That now again. Hopefully, the injury affects John Mateer's hand, I guess, if that's the case. I mean, that's what you got to hope for. If Colton Hood is out, because otherwise you're basically playing walk-ons. Like it's a tough spot if he's not playing.
Yeah, if he's not playing, I think you're going to see even more of that kind of bend but don't break approach from Tim Banks, which in this spot you would have to kind of understand a little bit, because you would have most likely Ty Redmond out there, a true freshman, starting, and William Wright, a former walk-on, starting. He's the one that played most of the snaps after Colton Hood went out against Kentucky. I think you don't have a choice but to kind of drop those safeties back and not get beat over the top, and you'll probably see some of that they go down the field and you either try to create a turnover, which good chance that happens, like we've talked about, or you get into the red zone, you hold them to a field goal. That's kind of been the Tim Banks approach this season. And sometimes it works. As long as you don't give up touchdowns in the red zone, that can work. But if Colton Hood doesn't play, your hands are really tied if you're Tim Banks. I know there will be a lot of criticism directed at him if that is the approach, but I think in this situation, that's kind of what you'd have to go with.
David Bearfield in the comments says, "Are we blacking out the stadium?" Yes, and I think that's a factor even on top of it just being in Neyland Stadium. The blackout games for Tennessee have become like stuff of legends at this point. Yeah. South Carolina a couple of years ago, obviously Kentucky, where you just destroyed Will Levis. It's a nasty environment to play in. Neyland Stadium is going to be absolutely rocking. Tennessee will be in black uniforms, which are just awesome and played well in them. That's good. This game runs in your favor, in my opinion. If Mateer's banged up and their offense is already a little suspect, their defense is good, but your offense is really good. I think as far as Tennessee's offense and their defense goes, they got good players, powerful defensive line, but just given enough time to chip away and chip away and chip away, I can see 30 points out of this offense for Tennessee, which again, that's a threshold. I'm not sure it's a threshold you're going to have to hit. It just feels like the threshold where if you hit it, you're definitely going to win in this game. I mean, maybe not with Tennessee's defense, but regardless, I think your defense stinks, but at least you're playing at home. Your offense is awesome, even though their defense is great. So all of those things you combine it, and to me, the Neyland environment takes you over the top in this one, and that's good. Joey Aguilar hopefully just building his confidence, as we mentioned, probably his best game of the entire season at Kentucky. Just deep balls his kid throws are they just work smart, and he had a bunch of them in this game. Oklahoma will probably play Tennessee where they try to take away the deep ball, just because everybody's done that at Kentucky, and Kentucky just got completely roasted by Tennessee in that game. So I would expect that, but hopefully you can stop the dropsies, and if all of those guys can keep their hands on the football, maybe Ethan Davis gets involved.
He scored a touchdown last week.
Yeah, he did, and hopefully that continues. Just keep up the good work. Star Thomas, Deshaun Bishop have a good game. It's right there for you. I like Tennessee's chances in this one, even though Oklahoma, I mean, defense travels. Defense travels. It's not affected by crowd noise or anything like that. But like I said, given enough time, kind of like Ole Miss, it took Ole Miss all 4 quarters to get there. Eventually, they just outpaced them.
Kiffin did some weird stuff in that game too, though, with Simmons at the quarterback position, and subbing in and out, and Ole Miss left some points out there with some odd decision making by Kiffin. So that point total was a little misleading, I thought.
Yes, I would agree. Classic Kiffin stuff. Although he's beaten the big game lane accusations this season.
Man, college football at this point is so hard to predict that I think anything pre 2021-22 pre-transfer portal just doesn't matter how coaches coach before then. It really doesn't, because the game is so different now with personnel, the way that you coach everything. You really got to be more of a CEO. There's just so much more to it now that it's like I don't know, you're seeing which coaches can thrive in this current environment. Clearly James Franklin couldn't. Clearly Brian Kelly couldn't. Some others that are going to get fired here soon as well. Fortunately for Tennessee, Heupel seems like he's thriving in this new environment. I thought Kyle brought up a good point too about Heupel. I know last year the storyline on this game was Heupel going back to Oklahoma. That was the biggest storyline of any game last season, given the way that his time at Oklahoma ended, and he's such a legendary figure there. That gave Tennessee a lot of extra juice for that game, and then I remember Heupel kind of talking about that. He was emotional after the game, talking about the guys doing a little more, a little extra for this game. I do wonder how that plays into this game. With you've already got that first meeting out of the way. This one's not in Norman, so it's not Heupel's first time going back to where he played in college and coached for almost a decade. But still, Oklahoma, it still means a lot to him. He still knows, what that symbolizes and how his time ended there. Plus, you've got Seth Luttrell, his buddy from that 2000 Oklahoma team that are in each other's weddings type deal. I mean, they're very close. He gets fired from Oklahoma as Tennessee's offensive coordinator. Hadn't been there quite as long as Heupel had when Heupel got fired after the 2014 season, but Luttrell obviously he was a captain on that 2000 team, right? Like he still has this deep connection to Oklahoma. He gets fired as well by his alma mater, just like Heupel did from the exact same position. It's his first time playing Oklahoma since that. A lot of Oklahoma guys on this staff, Joey Hosley, you got some analysts like Landry Jones and some other guys too that played at Oklahoma. Do you think that's still a big factor in this game? Do you think that's still like a huge motivating factor? I do think that's important. I mean, we see teams come out with that little bit extra juice can make the difference, especially early in the game, can set the tone, and you can kind of put this game away early if you come out the right way.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about the whole Oklahoma factor with Heupel. It was such a big deal last season. But now with it being in Neyland, it doesn't cross my mind as much. That's a good point. Maybe it would be. Hopefully they got a little more juice for Oklahoma. That would be good because I think they're going to need it, at least defensively. So we'll see. Kyle asks, what is currently the best college football opening in terms of open jobs? That's LSU.
I think it's LSU. I mean, I hate that. Not to pick on Kyle here. I don't like the ranking of the jobs, right? Like I think I tweeted about it last night. For some reason, that just annoys me because what's the best job for one coach might not be the best job for another coach. Like there's so many different variables. You can't just be like, I mean, clearly LSU is the best job. I think I agree with you, but it wasn't the best job for Brian Kelly, like at all. Like that was a terrible fit. It was never going to work. He tried, won some big games, lost even bigger games. It seemed like so. The best job for Brian Kelly is probably like a Big Ten job somewhere up in that area, in that geographic region. What's the best job for Lane Kiffin? Yeah, probably LSU. Most people's probably going to be LSU, but somebody might be better off at Arkansas than they would be at Florida. Like it's so dependent on all these different variables and who the athletic director is and recruiting landscape, all that kind of stuff.
You're really reaching an interesting point right now where schools are probably going to start leaning a little more conservative and go, so many jobs are open that if we fire our guy, we're going to be in like a bidding war. And so maybe they don't like an Auburn right now. I mean, he beat Arkansas. Not that that's incredibly impressive, but beat Arkansas probably saved his job. But they should fire Hugh Freeze. I mean, he stinks. But I don't know if they will because kind of like surely Florida State's gonna can Norvell, but
there's more coming. I mean, there's more openings coming. We know that. I mean, it's only October. We still got a whole nother month to go through. I don't know how you fill all these jobs. Penn State, LSU, Florida, Arkansas, Auburn, maybe we'll see. Florida State, like you mentioned, South Carolina, maybe if Beamer leaves, Virginia Tech's open. I mean, that job isn't maybe what it was 20 years ago when Frank Beamer was there 25 years ago, but that's still a big name job, and you can still go in the ACC and win there and get to a playoff. I don't want to say easy, but it's very doable. So there's a ton of open jobs. There's going to be all this movement. There's going to be a lot of programs that make a hire, and it's kind of like, did we really upgrade? I mean, we've seen that happen a lot where you fire a guy and you really don't know where you're going, and then there's just not a big name or a guy that's right for the job to hire. Like, who's Penn State going to hire? Is it, Brian Kelly, like Kyle mentioned? Is it Matt Rule from Nebraska? Well, it's not like Matt Rule's been, he's done well at Nebraska, but he's far from a sure thing to go do better at Penn State than James Franklin did. And where does James Franklin go? Is he a retread at somewhere like a Virginia Tech? If Lane goes to LSU, who does Florida hire? Does Drinkwitz leave Missouri? Does Golish leave USF? Maybe they decide, hey,
Kentucky?
Kentucky might be open. Like we've seen what's happened to these last few coaches that were at Florida. Do I really want to go get in that when I've got a good thing going here at Missouri or USF? I mean, I think you're going to see some underwhelming hires. I don't know who is going to land where. It's kind of like this musical chairs deal, and we'll see where it all kind of shakes out. But this would be a tough cycle to hire a coach because you got to think LSU is going to have first dibs on whoever. Maybe Kiffin stays at LSU and at Ole Miss and doesn't go anywhere. I mean, that's what I'd do if I was Kiffin. You got a good thing going there. You're probably going to make the playoff. If you look at the rest of their schedule, it's very manageable. I mean, they should win out and finish with one loss and maybe even get a bye, depending on what happens with SEC championship game and Texas A&M. But he's probably going to make the playoff. And if you make the playoff, I mean, you got a chance. So are you drastically improving your situation by going to a place at Florida that's had 3 straight coaches fail miserably that they really believed in? I don't know. It's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out.
Really interesting carousel. Will probably be a little more interesting here in the coming weeks. Let's finish with this. Your prediction for the game, Zach. Who's winning? Tennessee, Oklahoma, Neyland Stadium, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I probably gonna be who? Chris Fowler and freaking Kirk Herbstreit.
I don't know. I hope not, but we'll see.
Yeah.
No, I like Tennessee in this game. With it being at home, you have the better offense. As many people have pointed out, John Mateer's had trouble throwing the ball down the field. I still think they'll make some plays, but I don't think they're going to just light you up like Gunnar Stockton did, against Georgia. With it being at home, I think Tennessee scores. I'm with you. I think they score north of 30. I don't know if they quite get to 40. I think it's something like Tennessee 37, Oklahoma 24. You can run the ball on Tennessee. We've seen them give up some chunk explosive plays in the running game. So, I like 37-24 Tennessee.
I like that. I too. I think this one lands in Tennessee's favor. Thought that from the beginning. A lot of people considering this a trap game.
I definitely don't think it's a trap game. Not being Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Josh Heupel, no.
Exactly. Even if Mateer was 100%, I'm not seeing an Oklahoma game or an Oklahoma win here. I think it'll be close, as most games are at halftime. Maybe even you're down at the half, and we're thinking, "Oh my gosh, what a disaster!"
Yeah, just our weekly tradition at this point.
Exactly. That's just for whatever reason, just you can't get your crap together by halftime if you're Josh Heupel. So, second half though, I think you get some things figured out, and yeah, they give up points and then they win with offense. I'll say 33-27. Like it's close. You're gonna be sweating this one. Some field goals. You're gonna feel like you didn't accomplish as much as you need to. We're definitely gonna. A lot of us are gonna utter the phrase, "You're not gonna win this game with field goals," but we're gonna be saying that, But ultimately, we do win the game with field goals. Going to the comments before we get out, Eric says, Vols 45, Oklahoma 42. Whew! That'll be a tiring shootout. Kyle says 35-28 Tennessee. Ben 38-23. Chris 38-28 Tennessee pulls away. And David says 63-59. I assume Tennessee winning there.
This would be nice if this was like that Kentucky game in 22, when I remember going into that game.
Beat them. Yeah.
Going into that game, if you go back and you watch the intro to that game, it was Chris Fowler. And to Fowler's credit, they had a really great intro coming in that night. And they talked about how good Kentucky's defense was. Would Tennessee's offense be able to do anything against that Kentucky defense? And I think we were all kind of sweating that game a little bit. It was right before Georgia. And they just blew them out. They just had their way. Levis threw 3 interceptions. He scored 40+ points. It was one of the most fun games ever in Neyland Stadium. What if this game turns out to be like that? That would be the ideal scenario. So let's hope for that.
I really hope if you could have a beatdown here. That's going to be that's a resume builder in terms.
And you need
you have style. Yeah, if you have style points against Oklahoma, that'll look good if you can figure out a way to win in the swamp.
Yeah.
And then So
Yeah, that's the thing with Tennessee right now. Even if they win out and they finish 10-2, I think they'll make the playoff. We'll see how everything shakes out. It could be a complete cluster when it gets down to the end of the season with a bunch of 2-loss teams, and there could be a lot of arguing going. Well, there's going to be a lot of arguing going on, but there could be even more than we anticipate. And Tennessee last year had that Alabama win that really helped them. I mean, that was really what they hung their hat on. And even if you go 10-2 now, your best win will probably be the Oklahoma game. Or, I mean, that would be it, I guess. For us, the best win would be at Florida, regardless of Florida's record. As Tennessee fans, I think we would view that as their best win. I don't know if the playoff committee would understand the significance, though, Tennessee winning in the swamp.
They would not.
I mean, to me, that's equal to a top 10 win. It's something you haven't done in 20 years, 22 years, whatever it's been. So, yeah, you need to blow out Oklahoma in this game, I think, to really help that resume. Obviously, you have to get a win, but I think if you can win by like 20-some points, that just really helps that playoff resume. Because I don't know what to expect from this committee. I mean, I think at this point we should all kind of have that same feeling. You just don't know how they're gonna view some of these teams.
You could just end up with a lot of 10-2 SEC teams.
Oh, Eric made a good point. I forget that Vanderbilt is good now. So if you do beat Vanderbilt, that would be a good win. Even subconsciously, I cannot respect them for some reason.
If they figure out a way to beat Texas this weekend at Texas, and Tennessee is playing a freaking 11-1 or I guess it would be what, a 10-1 Vandy team, like that. First of all, that's the most obviously the most high profile game against Vandy you'll ever play.
Mm-hmm.
And still, to your point, it's a Tennessee win. It's just not like you're not. If you lose to Vandy in Neyland Stadium, you're not getting, oh, they had a good season. You're not getting sympathy from me for that. Vandy's Vandy. Like, I don't care. So just not to put undue pressure on our guys, but just something to keep in mind. So, anywho,
Kyle's right about Georgia Tech too, and that's another team. I mean, they're 8-0 right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many
BYU
teams the ACC is going to get in, but Georgia Tech, they got that last game of the year against Georgia, which will be huge. But outside of that, they got NC State, Boston College, and Pittsburgh. So they could very easily finish 11-1. And that Georgia game, we've seen they almost beat them last year. They should have beat them last year. You can't rule them out beating Georgia. So Georgia Tech could definitely cause some problems.
Yes. Yeah, you got a few, like I said, you got a few teams out there. BYU, another one.
Mm-hmm.
Just like somehow gotten to 8-0, and Texas Tech also in the Big 12. All right, I guess you could say Texas Tech too. Get Texas.
Oh, they lost their quarterback though, right? Texas Tech.
They did.
Yeah, that's problematic.
Yes, I mean we know all too well losing your quarterback will get you booted out of the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Florida State knows it, so yeah, that's they've set that precedent.
Yes, but that is a show. Charlie Burris, Zach Reagan. Thank you to everybody who tuned in, commented, hung out with us. Could not do this show without you. We truly appreciate it. This was a good one. Best of luck to Josh Elander. Good luck with the basketball team. And let's go beat Oklahoma. That's all. Thanks again for watching, and we will talk to y'all as long as there's no other ridiculous news, but don't hold your breath. This is Tennessee. We will talk to y'all. Oh, hold on. I don't have it open. Hold on. Got to get to the exit button here. 1 second, Zach. We'll talk to you next week.